Say goodbye to expensive fertilizer. This weed trick will blow your mind. If you've been gardening for any length of time, you already know the sting. You walk into an agrovet or garden store, glance at the fertilizer shelf, and suddenly your wallet feels lighter before you even buy anything. Prices keep rising, bags keep shrinking, and somehow the soil still seems hungry. Here at Rootshaven Grounds, we believe gardening should work with nature, not drain your pocket. Today I want to share a powerful, almost unbelievable trick that uses something most gardeners curse every season: weeds. Yes, the same weeds you pull out, toss aside, or burn could be the most powerful fertilizer you'll ever use. This is not theory. This is a time-tested soil-building method that gardeners around the world have quietly relied on for generations. Once you understand it, you'll never look at weeds the same way again. Most of us were taught that weeds are enemies. They steal nutrients, choke crops, and ruin our hard work. While that can be true when they're left unchecked, it's only half the story. What we're rarely told is that weeds are nutrient miners. Their roots go deep into the soil, far deeper than many vegetables ever reach. Down there, they pull up minerals like calcium, potassium, magnesium, phosphorus, and trace elements that commercial fertilizers often fail to provide in balance. Think of weeds as nature's free fertilizer factories. They grow fast, accumulate nutrients quickly, and require absolutely no money to produce. When we learn how to turn them into plant food instead of waste, the entire garden economy changes. Chemical fertilizers work fast, but they come with hidden costs. They feed plants directly, not the soil. Over time, soil structure breaks down, beneficial microbes disappear, and plants become dependent on repeated applications. Miss one feeding and growth stalls. The soil becomes tired, compacted, and lifeless. Weeds, on the other hand, build living soil. They return organic matter, improve soil structure, and feed microorganisms that naturally release nutrients over time. This means healthier plants, deeper roots, better water retention, and stronger resistance to pests and disease. Once you switch to weed-based fertility, you stop chasing growth and start building abundance. The trick is simple but powerful: weed-based liquid fertilizer, often called weed tea or fermented plant juice. Instead of throwing weeds away, you transform them into a nutrient-rich liquid feed that your garden will respond to almost immediately. Fresh weeds are chopped and soaked in water, allowing their nutrients to leach out. With time, microbes break down plant material and convert locked nutrients into forms plants can easily absorb. What you're left with is a dark, earthy-smelling liquid that works like a complete organic fertilizer. This method costs nothing, works fast, and improves soil health every time you use it. Choosing the right weeds is really important. Not all weeds are equal, but many common ones are incredibly powerful. Fast-growing leafy weeds are ideal because they contain high nitrogen levels for lush growth. Deep-rooted weeds bring up minerals that improve flowering and fruiting. Weeds like comfrey, pigweed, chickweed nettles, dandelion, blackjack, and even young grasses work beautifully. If it grows aggressively and stays green, it's usually loaded with nutrients. Just remember to avoid weeds that have gone to seed unless you're sure the fermentation process will destroy viability. Here's the mindset shift. Don't ask, how do I get rid of weeds? Instead, ask yourself, how do I harvest them? So, here's how to turn weeds into liquid gold. Start by collecting fresh weeds from your garden or nearby areas that haven't been sprayed with chemicals. Chop them roughly to increase the surface area. Place them in a bucket or container and cover with water. If you can, use rainwater. But honestly, any water will work just fine. Next, cover the container loosely and let it sit for about 1 to 2 weeks. Stir occasionally if you can. The smell will be strong, but don't worry. That's actually a sign of active fermentation. This is where the magic happens. Microbes break down plant tissues and release nutrients into the water. So, once your weed tea is ready, go ahead and strain the liquid, and then you want to dilute it before you use it. This step is pretty important because, well, concentrated weed tea is really powerful stuff. When you apply it the right way, your plants will usually respond with deep green leaves, stronger stems, and, even better flowering. Now, let's talk about how to use it in the garden. You should apply the diluted liquid directly to the soil around your plants, but make sure the ground is slightly moist, not completely dry. This helps the nutrients move down into the root zone more efficiently. Oh, and you can also use it as a foliar feed. Just spray it in the early morning or late afternoon, when the leaves can soak up those nutrients without the risk of burning. Regular application, say every 2 to 3 weeks, is usually enough for most gardens. You'll start to notice improvements, not just in how your plants grow, but also in the texture of your soil, the activity of earthworms, and honestly, the overall resilience of your whole garden. So this is not just a one-time fix, it's actually a system that gets better and better with time. Now, you might be wondering, why does this work better than store-bought fertilizer? Well, commercial fertilizers usually focus only on those NPK numbers, but, weeds provide complete nutrition. Plus, they contain trace minerals that are often missing from bagged products, and they support beneficial microbes instead of killing them. Also, they improve soil structure rather than compacting it. Most importantly, weed fertilizer adapts to your local soil. The weeds growing in your area are pulling exactly the nutrients your soil contains. When you return them to the garden, you're recycling minerals in perfect balance. Nature already knows what your soil needs. We just have to stop fighting it. Perfect for beginners and experienced gardeners. If you're new to gardening, this method removes fear and cost. You don't need to understand complex fertilizer schedules or chemical ratios. You simply feed the soil with what it already understands. For experienced gardeners, weed fertilizer really adds depth to your system. It complements composting, mulching, and natural pest control, It helps close those nutrient loops and moves your garden closer to true self-sufficiency. Whether you're growing vegetables, fruit trees, herbs, or even flowers, this method adapts effortlessly. So let's talk about common mistakes to avoid. The biggest mistake is using weed tea too strong. Always dilute. Another mistake is expecting instant miracles without consistency. Remember, this is living nutrition, not a chemical boost. Results really do compound over time. Also, avoid using weeds collected from polluted roadsides or sprayed areas. What you put in determines what comes out. When used thoughtfully, this method is safe, powerful, and honestly, endlessly renewable. The bigger picture here is gardening freedom. At Rootshaven Grounds, we're not just growing plants, we're growing independence. Every bag of fertilizer you don't buy is money saved. Every weed you recycle is soil restored. And every harvest grown this way, well, it tastes better because it comes from living soil, not exhausted dirt. This weed trick is more than a hack. It's a mindset shift. Once you see weeds as allies, Your garden transforms from a battlefield into an ecosystem. And that's when gardening becomes truly rewarding. If you take just one thing from this article, let it be this. Your garden already provides everything it needs to thrive. Weeds are not the problem. Wasted nutrients are. Start small. Try this method on one bed or a few plants. Watch how they respond. Let the results convince you. If you found this guide helpful, make sure to subscribe to Rootshaven Grounds on YouTube, share this article with a fellow gardener, and help spread the message that powerful gardening doesn't have to be expensive. Together, we grow smarter, stronger, and closer to nature.